everyone. I'm Cass with College of Lore.
I am the Penitent with College of Lore.
Welcome back to this episode of the Academy. This is a long one.
Yeah.
This is the second part of... We don't know how long this is gonna be. This is the second part of us talking about Curse of Strahd and how we run it, and what great fun this module can be if people like being scared. So, we're just gonna launch right into it, because we left off somewhere and I'd like to pick it back up. And we're gonna start talking about the village of Kresk, and the abbey that is very close to it. So I'll just start with, I love a lot of the plot lines presented in Kresk as a baseline.
Yeah.
I have much less to complain about here than a lot of other locations.
I feel like we complain too much about the...
I think it's... we've played it a lot. It's gotten old to us. I think we've probably played upwards of 30 Curse of Strahd games collectively.
I think there's a lot of interesting things to do with the...
There's a lot of interesting things to do everywhere. We just don't like all of them.
Family in charge of Kresk.
Yes. We've done some fun stuff. We made one of their kids a vampire at once, I think. Instead of having them all be dead. That's also a thing here. There's a lot of that in this game.
Yep.
What's up with that? It's depressing, I guess, and that's what they want. But yeah, you can do plenty with, like, just Kresk itself, even if you, like, don't mess around with the Abbey too much. But please mess around with the Abbey, because the Abbot is so weird. So by the book, he's an angel. Which is fun in and of itself, because what is he doing in Barovia?
Yeah.
At least how we run things, gods can't directly interface with Barovia, because it's in such a weird place. The closest they can get is their followers being there, and they can vaguely assist them. Except for the Raven Queen, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit in the way I run things. So there's an angel here for no reason. He claims to be helping, vaguely. He's so much more fun to play as a genuinely just terrible, messed up person. Whether he's messed up because he really, really wants to stay on Strahd's good side, or for some other reason, anything's fine. Some of the stuff we do with him, we have him, like, running experiments on the mongrel folk. Like, scientific experiments, artificer stuff. Taking tribute from Kresk to keep them, like, protected, which I don't know how much of that is by book.
A lot of it is.
Yeah, a little bit of it is by book. But, like, is that magic working? Is that magic not real? Did it never even come up in the first place? Who knows? We have thrown a lot of weird NPCs into this place. It's really fun to use. Again, if you have a religious character in any vein, this is a really fun place for them to have interactions with stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Aasimar or clerics or paladins of any god, tieflings as well, because he does not react well to those, probably.
No.
If you have any kind of holy or unholy, vaguely aligned race, or class, he also probably would not take very kindly to warlocks.
Yes, and especially people who have problems with the religious.
Yes. So that is very fun. You can have a lot of drama around that. You could also make him like a fake angel or something, like he's masquerading as that. You could make that a whole charade.
Oh, and he's building an arena.
Yeah, he's doing that. To stay on Strahd's good side and to see about that. And you can write the reason for that whatever you want it to be. He's weird and messed up, and it's so much fun if you dial that up, just like it's fun if you dial every other bad character up.
Yeah, this is also the canon meeting place of Esmeralda.
Yeah, you can meet Esme here. I love her. She's one of my favorite NPCs in any module.
Yeah.
I'm very attached. You meet her here if you want to meet her here. I'm going to talk about her more later. This is also where the Sergei in the pool thing happens.
Oh.
Please don't run that. It's so bad. That is the, quote, best ending for Arena, canonically, in the book. Please don't put that there. Just don't do that. Listen, if you want to use Sergei like we've talked about, insert a reincarnation of him, or do literally anything else other than putting him in this weird body of water in the Abbey. It's the worst. However, if you're placing the items manually, putting something like the Sun Sword, a holy, shiny, light-based, heavenly artifact, in this pool guarded by this weird fucked up angel.
Or any of them.
Or, yeah, any of the artifacts, but especially something like the Sun Sword, especially because putting it deep in there is hard to get to. without drawing attention to yourself. That's fun.
It's also
a good reason to have a plot-relevant combat.
good, because this isn't really actual sanctified ground.
Yeah.
Also fun to have Strahd show up in the water after they dive in.
Yes. We have done that before. It is so fun
Or-
and so scary.
To have Strahd pose as an illusion of Sergei
Yeah.
in the water.
Yes, you can do so many things with that.
So the canonical ending, if for those of you unaware,
Mm-hmm.
Sergei's soul is trapped in the baptismal font here.
Yeah. It's so bad.
And if you take Arena here, she can see Sergei's soul, and he'll reach his hand out through the water and pull her in, and the last thing you'll see of them is them smiling and happy together.
And then it's just over.
And then it's over.
It's just done. And, like, that doesn't even do anything to Strahd.
Oh,
like,
it makes him pissed. That's all it does.
That's not helpful.
No.
Like, you don't want him more mad at you. It's a stupid plotline, and it doesn't make any sense, and it's so lame and boring. Let Arena kill Strahd. That's way more fun. Take Arena all the way to the end and let her kick Strahd's ass.
It takes away all the empowerment they build up for her.
Yeah, it does. And it makes her fundamentally a damsel, which is the whole point of what they've tried not to do, and what we try not to do, so don't do that. But putting an item anywhere in the Abbey, guarded by the Abbot and his mongrel folk and the flesh golems and stuff, is fun. One time, we ran a combat, I ran a combat, was that me? Was it me that ran the 12?
Yes.
12 Devas? What a nightmare that was. I had the Abbot summon like 12 other angels that were just chilling in the Abbey with him. And that was a bad combat for like level 5 or 6 characters, and that was where we required a Deus Ex Machina, which was intentional. It was intentional that the party was not meant to do very well in that fight. You actually did pretty well, I remember.
Yeah.
Everyone involved in that. But we'll talk about this in a little bit. Deus Ex Machinas, there are some good characters in there for that. One of them is Van Richten, and that was who we used there.
Yeah.
That is a great... If you don't do the carnival thing, if you aren't vibing with that, that is a great way to introduce Van Richten. Is to have him, her, if you're us, show up and, like, save the party. Which is great and fun, and it can have a lot of impact on things. Or they can just show up for some reason or another. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The Abbey is probably more fun than Kresk, but that is not to say that Kresk is not fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're so intertwined. You know, you don't go up to the Abbey if you don't go to Kresk, really, so... It's connected.
Kresk is kind of the call to go up there.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah. Talking about other places. Are the Revenants evil at Argynvost, like, canonically? I don't remember. No, I didn't think so. I was like,
surely are we moving on to Argynvost?
I was gonna.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
I was gonna move on to Argynvost. Yeah, I don't know why they would be evil. The dragon that they served is silver, I think.
Yeah.
So he's probably good aligned.
They're not evil, like they're just weird.
They're just weird. If your players try to recruit them to go storm Strahd's castle or something crazy like that, which people have done before, that is a thing people have tried to do. Some players will try to recruit anyone and everyone, which makes sense. Mm-hmm. Your catch-all to avoid that is they can't leave the keep.
Yes, that is a great...
I don't know if that's in the book, but that's what I would do in that situation.
Yes.
Is it in there?
I don't think so.
Okay. If you want your players to not, like, take all these guys and just go storm Strahd's castle, you can just say, sorry, they are trapped here magically because of the bond to the dragon and their spirits and all that, and they can't leave the keep. They can't wander off the grounds.
Yeah.
So, that's helpful. Argynvost is cool. Because dragons are known to be able to take human guises or humanoid guises, I have done several things. Both of us have done several things. Lots of people have done several things with, the idea of his spirit appearing in a human guise somewhere in Argynvost, in the keep, and talking to the players, or aiding them, or asking for the dragon skull to be restored, or something like that.
It's a fantastic place to send PCs as well that are dragon-related, either Draconic Bloodline Sorcerer, a Dragonborn,
We have a homebrew, like, young dragon thing.
I have played a character that was raised by dragons.
Who was a human who was raised by dragons. I love her so much. That was a great character. You can put a bunch of extra draconic stuff in here. One of the time we ran for that character, I put a Hall of Draconic related artifacts that Argynvost had collected during his lifetime. Like treasures taken from several different colors of dragons, chromatic and metallic alike. And he had kind of hoarded them in like this secret room, and when it was revealed that that character had the soul of a dragon, according to her and her dragon mom and such, the Revenants like took her down and let her see all that stuff and like let her take them with her or something. I don't remember. I don't remember if she took all of them. I don't think so. But yeah, you can do some fun stuff with that. You can do a lot with Argynvost if you have a dragon-connected character, just like you can do a lot with the Abbey if you have a Aasimar or Tiefling or any kind of religious, holy, unholy, connotated character. You can do a lot with a lot of places, you know, like I keep saying, there's so much room for different connections and things to tie into each other. Argynvost is also a great place. This is something that I like throwing in good locations for things. I don't remember if there's like a big library in the book. I imagine there is, because why wouldn't this place have a library? It's a great place to put the Tome of Strahd. It seems like the kind of thing they would collect.
100%, yes.
Yeah. So that's a great place to put that if you're pre-planning things for the first time. Always move them around if you play multiple games. But,
yeah, never put it in the same place twice. If you're
or, like, you can maybe put a different one there, but, like, it gets boring to put them in the same place. We've had to get very creative.
Yeah.
Which is also part of the reason, for your entertainment as much as for anyone on the channel, part of the reason that I have not dictated where any items are specifically to you yet. Which, like I've said before, is also a thing you can do if you want your players to find them in some other way.
Sometimes
or
it's
know
fun.
Later.
It's fun to just let players explore.
Yeah. And let them explore and maybe grant them items when you feel like they've earned the right to find something, or if they do something really interesting in a place that seems like a good place for it.
100%.
That's a great way to do it, too. Yeah, this is a great place to put the Tome of Strahd. There are a bunch of great places to put all of the items, but this is a clever one for that reason. And it creates maybe some interaction. Maybe the Revenants don't want them to take it, or maybe they're too keen on giving it to them, surprisingly keen on that. I've had ideas of putting false items in places before. Visions that might be untrue, or lies from Madame Eva or something, depending on if you run her specifically as evil. This would also be a great place for the fake Tome of Strahd to be.
100% yes.
Especially because it is such a logical location for it, that it makes sense that Strahd would hide something like that there. That's also where the idea of the fake holy symbol in Vallaki came from. Same idea.
While we're on the subject, and I know we're talking about Argynvost, but
yeah,
the Tome of Strahd, I'm going to say something mildly controversial.
Okay, let's do it.
Why is it useful?
Why is it useful? Like, I guess if you don't immediately get all the Strahd lore, it tells you about how he works, but we always dump that at the beginning.
It just, like, maybe I'm forgetting something, because it's been a while since I've read the source book, but Sun Sword does extra damage to Strahd.
Holy Symbol has, like, spell effects you can use on him.
What the fuck does the tome do except flesh out the lore?
Yeah, you can make it do something interesting. You could make it detail his weaknesses, resistances, all of that stuff if you wanted it to. You could give it some other caveat of, like, details of the castle layout that he talks about, like, in its construction or something. You could even have, like, a blueprint of the castle folded into it to help players navigate. You know, you can do a ton of stuff with it. By the book, it's useless, I think.
Yeah.
You can do fun stuff with it. You can do fun stuff with all the items. You can buff up the Holy Symbol or the Sun Sword. You can buff up the Tome of Strahd. There's a ton of stuff you can do with that. You can tweak it to your players' needs and wants. But by the book, the Tome of Strahd is super boring and useless, and if you don't add something else useful into it, your players will be like, hey, why did we go get this?
Yeah. We even make a joke about that in the actual play, I believe.
I think so, yeah. It's just a stupid thing to have. It's a stupid thing to need.
It is, 100%.
Do you want to talk about Beres now and what we do with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is totally different.
Yeah, Beres we just don't run like normal, straight up.
I don't like it normally.
It's just like an encounter, right? I don't think I ever even read Beres by the book. What is it normally? You tell everyone.
So normally it is Baba Lysaga, who is weird.
Yeah.
And like cryptic and strange.
Yeah. We use that.
Doesn't provide anything useful by the book.
She's supposed to be a witch, and she doesn't even do anything useful, friend. We've changed that significantly.
And I say that probably forgetting something she does,
I'm
but...
sure. But isn't there there's a whole bunch of you can fight Bubble Eye Saga and it's a terrible encounter or something
and there's a bunch, I think there are a few random encounters, if memory serves.
Yeah.
I like doing it differently.
The big thing we do there, I will talk to you about in a sec, but one of the things we do here is this is another great place for environmental horror.
Yes.
I think frequently about the time that I described the entire abandoned city as, it was flame, right? It was it set itself on fire, on a timer, and when everything had burned down, it just slowly rebuilt itself with the magic of the realm, and it was just this constant cycle of destruction and recreation, only to have everything be destroyed again. And it was dangerous to navigate, because it was constantly on fire, every 10 minutes. So it was a really, really terrifying, dangerous experience. You can do something like that. You can, because it's abandoned, you can have a lot of, the aesthetic of, overgrown buildings, kind of nature reclaiming stuff. And if you want, you can play Baba Eye Saga into that, because she's supposed to be a witch. You can have her use things like that to defend her territory, something like that. And then the big thing we do, we run her kind of like some fae, some demons, stuff like that. Demons or devils or both, I don't remember which. Where she likes to basically make deals with players.
And this is one of the most fun things I think we've added in to the game.
And that is also something that ties into one of our game tales. The same one we've been talking about, in fact. But it's so fun to do. Basically the gist of it is, as you would with any other fae or demon or something that's trying to trick a character into giving up something valuable in exchange for something significantly less worth it than they realize, you can have her do that. You can also have her be a little more genuine about it. Some of the games I've run her, she just hates Strahd as much as everyone else. I like to run her as, a being that's been trapped here almost as long as he has, if not longer. Or as long.
Yeah.
She may have been here since before the realm was trapped, and she may have gotten trapped and kind of gotten corrupted by the magic. Which is a fun way to run her. And sometimes that can mean that she is willing to make slightly better deals in order to specifically use things that directly help against Strahd. She might be useful in helping the players. She might help them find the location of an item, or even provide them an item, provided a very good bargain is struck. She might give them stat buffs, or other magic items, or any kind of thing that would help them fight.
I would exercise some caution with giving items via Bubble Eye Saga.
I would too. Especially quest items.
Yes.
I probably wouldn't do that, but if you wanted to, you could. Especially if it's gotta be somewhere in Beraz already.
Yeah.
The only time I would really say do it is have the holy symbol hanging on her wall or something, and the players will be like, hey, we need that, and she'll be like, okay, make me a deal. If it's already gonna be there, that's fine. And that's a good way to entice your players, but don't just have her give it to them.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I would say about that. She's fun to play that way. You kind of have to be a little crafty about what players might offer in exchange for what. Sometimes if you're planning for an encounter there with her in that way, it's a good idea to kind of have offers of things she would want from the players pre-planned, which is something I never remember to do. But things that she might want from the players in exchange for anything they might ask for.
This is also a good experience to kind of realize sometimes you need retcons.
Yeah.
Sometimes you will trade too much.
Or not enough, or something that really doesn't work out well long-term, and you can retcon it if you really need to, change it for something else. Sometimes it's hard to think of this stuff on the fly. Both players and DMs may have trouble with that.
We had a game where someone... This is very easy with trades, to accidentally kill your character.
Yeah.
Or kill your fun of playing them, at least.
Yeah.
So anything that makes major sweeping changes to a character, I would caution...
Yeah.
Against that, or at least make your players sure, and if it doesn't work out for them...
Be willing to change it if they can come up with something else. Yeah.
We had someone...
Or help them come up with something else.
Trade their memories once, which in theory was fine.
Yeah.
But in practice, totally killed all of that character's motivation and drive. We also had someone, at some point, trade their youth.
Yeah.
Which we thought would be fine in the meantime, but it actually just ended up making things...
Complicated
and weird, yeah.
Yeah. So... That's one of the times where I say genuinely, I don't usually retcon stuff. That's a place where I would be completely comfortable doing it, because you just want to make the narrative interesting above all else. you want to keep the game fun above all else, and if retconning something is kind of the only way to keep a character enjoyable, I would do it, generally. If there's any way to make it work at all, I would do it. So yeah, the deal thing is kind of the big, massive overhaul to Bubble Life Saga, and I think it makes the whole area and the whole thing with her much more interesting and fun. Don't run the Wizard of Wines. Don't run it. And Yester Hill?
I don't want to say never.
If you really enjoy miserable slogs of combat, it's the encounter for you. I don't like it. It's boring and a waste of my time.
I don't want to say never, but...
There's something to do with were-ravens there, but you can put them somewhere else. I like putting them other places. I like the were-ravens, I'm really attached to them conceptually, and like Shatterkai stuff.
Yeah.
Dusk Elves, Shatterkai. I don't know how common the Shatterkai term is actually used. I know that's what they're called in lore, though.
I believe they might be vaguely different things.
Are they? Are they different? I thought they were the same. Because that's the playable race, is the Shatterkai. It's what it's listed as.
Yes.
In the elf sub-races on stuff, right? Isn't that where that comes from?
Yes, just look up.
I think it's in like a Dungeon Masters thing, probably. Yeah, we can Google that. We'll Google that as I continue talking about the Wizard of Wines and how much I hate it.
No, apparently, despite both being members of... That's kind of dumb. That's kind of why I forget about it, because it's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Despite both being elf sub-races in some way kind of tied into the Shadowfell, Dusk Elves and Shatterkai are in fact different things.
I didn't make that mistake. We're all gonna forget I said that, but also I'm right and everything else is wrong. There's no reason for those to be different things. Just smush them together. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I did not make a mistake. Everything else is just wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the Wizard of Wines while on the subject. While we're on the subject of were-ravens and Shatterkai and all that, I hate the Wizard of Wines.
Like...
It's dumb.
It's just two combats.
The winery is just boring. And there's usually not a good place to rest between them.
Yeah, like, the Yester Hill fight can be fun, but at the same time...
It also can't.
What does this evil tree have to do with Strahd?
Yeah. Unless you can really make it connected in some way, it's just kind of a random detour for
It seems like it's kind of just a detour there to...
It's there for experience, probably.
And pad out time. Well, no, Curse of Strahd uses Milestone.
Oh, right. Then I don't know why it exists. Maybe if you just want to run it weird. Are you using Milestone or are you wrong? I'm mostly kidding with that, but I don't do random encounters, so that probably drastically skews my view of things.
Yeah.
If you don't do random encounters, experience leveling is much harder. But I also like to throw in really big encounters, like, sparingly. So there's a decent chance that, like, my players could get, like, 3 levels out of certain types of combat, depending on what level. Like, I have had my players fight CR 20 monsters at, like, level 5, which isn't good. We've done worse than that, I think. We've fought some crazy stuff at low levels.
Yeah.
I don't remember what level we were in the Naranzaya fight.
Big parties are an equalizer.
Yes. Especially if your characters do not have AoE. I don't remember if Strahd has Fireball canonically. I think he does. In the book.
He doesn't, he should.
He does, I think. If he doesn't, he definitely should. I have buffed Strahd's spell list so many times because usually I need him to be way stronger by the final fight because everyone in my parties always likes to make friends.
Or his physical strength, or both.
Yeah, both, usually.
And health.
And health. I have given him like 1500 health before. I also use the, this is something I'll talk about more later, the heart of the castle. Most players don't bother to go destroy it. And it helps him regenerate in combat, and I've buffed that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've given Strahd like 2000 health before. I have given him Power Word Kill before, which you may have heard about in one of our game tales. That was mentioned.
We counterspelled it.
You counterspelled it, and it was epic. It was awesome. It was one of the coolest, most necessary counterspells I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was even targeting anymore.
Cirque.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I figured it was probably Cirque. Yeah. What were we talking? I hate the Wizard of Wines! I hate it so much. It's so bad. Just in case you guys hadn't noticed yet from everything I've been saying, I hate The winery encounter. I hate Yesterhill. I hate twig blights. They're a blight on this world, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I think I'm hilarious. Everyone please clap. I hate the I hate the wizard ones. Yeah. That's that. That's that area. That's all. I'm not gonna say anything positive about it. I don't like it. Don't run it. I'm also not gonna say anything about Mordenkainen for the same reason. That's it. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying I'm not gonna say anything about
Mordenkainen is really nice.
it. You can say anything about it you want.
Mordenkainen is really nice to have if
Never.
your players know Mordenkainen.
That's fair. That's it. That's the only time. Mordenkainen is really useful in your game basically never.
If your players understand the history of D&D and Mordenkainen stuff, it's...
I don't even understand Mordenkainen stuff. And I don't want it explained to me, so don't. I'm sorry.
If you're about to leave a comment on the history of Mordenkainen, please instead...
donate $5 to me. It'll definitely be more helpful than explaining Mordenkainen to me, I promise. Leave like a $5 donation to me somewhere.
Send us chips.
Send us chips, yeah. Send me a bag of chips, it will be infinitely more helpful than any explanation of Mordenkainen lore could ever be. Let's talk about the Ember Temple. I'm tired of talking about things I hate. I love the Ember Temple. The base encounter with Exothanter is super fun. You don't have to make him scared, he's just a sad little guy. He's just itty-bitty. You can remove all the combat encounters in the Ember Temple if you don't like them, and I'm maybe a little biased because I hate combat encounters. You can remove combat encounters almost anywhere. I don't think I've said this enough yet.
We say this like we don't have fun doing combats.
You do have fun doing combats, but not like random stuff.
Yeah, not just random...
Random monsters and stuff. You don't need to fight... I don't remember what they're called. The little, like, floating skull things.
Yeah.
What are those called? Do you remember? It doesn't matter.
Demi-liches.
Is that what they're called? Are they called demi-liches?
The floating skull creatures?
I don't remember. The thing...
Oh, no, the fire shooter ones, yeah.
No, I don't remember what they're called.
I don't remember what they're called, but
it's fine. It doesn't
I don't
matter.
care. I don't care.
I don't have them in the game, so it does not matter.
The main reason we don't have... Well, not the main reason, but one of the easiest things to do when we cut zombies out of our games...
is cut random encounters.
Yeah.
If you don't have random encounters, you can't encounter any random zombies.
Most Barovian houses should have a random chance of having a
like a
Strahd
D4
zombie
of
inside.
Strahd zombies in them, yeah.
But
don't.
Why do that when you could have compelling combat or
compelling characters
roleplay based encounters?
Yeah. Why do anything else other than roleplay ever? Sorry, there are going to be no more combats in the actual play game. We're only going to talk it out nicely. We're going to all sit down and have a pleasant conversation over dinner with Strahd, and nothing bad is going to happen to you.
Hey, that's
everyone's
a
gonna
plot
have a
point.
great time.
Dinner with Strahd.
You guys are all gonna go have dinner with Strahd, and everyone's gonna have a great meal, and we're all gonna be friends, and he's gonna stop bothering.
Sometimes I think about the player who had their players turn down repeated invitations to go have dinner with Strahd.
Oh, I remember this.
So they just made a dining table and Strahd appear in the middle of the path.
Ideal way to solve that scenario, honestly. I think that's great. Yeah, Exothanter's fun. I honestly think it's kind of a cute plotline. I've actually done some really fun stuff with it before. I think there was a time where I, like, made him have, like, known Tatiana when she was a little kid or something, because he'd been alive so long. And he had forgotten because he, like, has amnesia. Like, Alzheimer's or something in the game.
Skeleton Alzheimer.
Skeleton Alzheimer's. The skeleton appears. I think about that all the time.
We've had some really moving things done.
We've also had some really stupid stuff. I talked about this earlier. Ravenloft is part of the Shadowfell. It's kind of vaguely attached. It's a demiplane there. That can be a great place to pull some lore in, especially if you have, like I said, characters that are connected to the Shadowfell, Vecna, or the Raven Queen. One of the things that we did, with the demigod to the Raven Queen that I talked about earlier, having some kind of presence in the temple, the Raven Queen having that, maybe being able to reach Barovia from just this space better than any other god, maybe having it have some kind of warding magic that keeps the rest of the realm's messed upness away from the area around the temple. which can also be fun to have when you're trekking up the mountain to the temple. Some really bad stuff going on because it's all
Yeah.
held back and they really don't want you to get there. So that's a fun way to do things.
There are always the trades to be made as well.
Yes. The sarcophagi in the bottom of the temple. You can switch those up too. You can give them different boons to grant or bear different horrible consequences if you don't do it correctly or if you make that trade.
Or you can just pass all your saves and not have it be a problem.
God, I don't remember who passed, like...
Scorn.
Yeah. What was it, like 4 different saves?
Yeah.
It took inspiration, in fairness, to pass them. It took like 2 rolls of inspiration or something. But man, he sure did! He sure did roll like 4 different things and get all of them without any negative effects because he passed all his saves.
Mm-hmm.
Genuinely ideal. I feel like you were probably not happy when that happened.
Let there be...
Imagine having consequences for your actions in a game.
Let there be no consequences.
Yeah, no consequences necessary. Another thing that's fun to do, this is also something I did in another game, if you're involving the Raven Queen or any kind of Shadowfell lore, it's interesting to note that the Raven Queen has part of her domain being, like, sorrow and sad memories and negativity and stuff, which is kind of depressing. But a fun thing to do to your players is have them have, this is something I've done in other ways, horrible dreams in Barovia, because Barovia loves making people
Yeah, you sure have.
Alternatively, if you want to put, like, something in the Amber Temple that shows them bad memories or horrible traumatic events or other sad stuff, you can put that in there. And they'll pass a certain area or, like, look in a mirror or something, and it'll all of a sudden they'll be like, oh god, now I'm trapped in a trauma flashback or something. You can do that.
I don't know, I thought you were gonna say now I'm trapped in a mirror dimension.
Yeah, you're trapped in an alternate reality of still Barovia, unfortunately. But yeah, the Amber Temple is actually one of my favorite areas in the game. I think you can also meet Esmeralda there, right? Sometimes? I think that's a place that they've said you can meet her. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's also canonically where you meet Casimir, I believe.
Yeah, I remember we did that a long time ago. I miss playing with Casimir. I should put him in.
I say meet Casimir like he's not dead when you find him.
You can bring him back. That's one of the things that the sarcophagi can give you.
Yep, the temple does allow resurrection.
We did that in that game. That was fun. That was a great game.
Yeah.
This was a thing that happened long after that, but we had a very, very beloved character die. And the character who got all those boons still had some of the resurrection stuff left, and then had to use it on something else right before they were going to bring that character back. And it was such an incredible narrative moment, but also rest in fucking peace, buddy.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to that guy specifically. We love him so much.
Man, I don't know how the rest of the audience listening to this feels about us recounting our D&D stories, but I'm having a great time.
A great time. It's fine. Listen, we're giving examples. This is a learning by example sort of thing. Do you want to talk about something else now? What are we talking about next?
So, political climate in America right now.
No! That is not a good topic for this channel. Hey, don't be racist, guys. I'm just gonna harp on that again for a second. Don't be racist in your D&D games. It's bad.
Or outside of them.
Or outside of them. But, like, you can be racist in a game without being racist outside of it. It's hard to do the other thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to go in the other direction. Speaking of racism in D&D games, please don't make Van Richten the white savior trope. Just don't. Just don't. Also, please don't make him a racist in general who kills all Vistani.
I understand his motivation.
I do too. You can also just take that out and have anyone you want be killed by Strahd directly instead of having stuff like that happen.
I think it's another vampire.
Yeah. What's the point? Listen, we usually run that as Van Richten's wife and kid got, like, turned by Strahd and they mercy killed them both, and that was a beginning of a very miserable rest of Van Richten's life. That's a great story, Beat.
Speaking of, do you want to talk about Van Richten?
I'm talking about Van Richten. That's the point I'm on right now. We make Van Richten a trans woman all the time because we love her. And if you run her like a decent human being, it's actually so much better that way.
I really like doing that.
I like doing that. It's fun to sprinkle it in. First of all, An old adventurer would either have been able to find magic to trans their gender, or would just never have done it and be super extra miserable and sad, which is how Van Richten normally is anyway. So it kind of works out.
Van Richten is a perfect character for the self-sacrifice trope as well.
Yes, we did that. That was so sad. That was how we got super attached to Van Richten conceptually. Yes. Please don't make Van Richten the white savior trope. Please don't make him racist. Please don't make him an asshole.
Also, friendly reminder, Van Richten is a half-elf.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, what's up with that? On a vaguely related note, don't use the G slur to refer to Vistani.
Yeah.
If you don't know what that is, it's a derogatory term for Romani people, and I'm not going to say it because it's bad.
It's actually something a lot of people don't know.
It is something a lot of people don't know, but it is a bad thing to say, and I'm telling you all now. I'm educating everyone who doesn't know that already.
The book, I believe, does not use it.
I hope not. I would be really mad if it did. Because technically that's like it's a real-world analog anyway, so it probably isn't used, but like, don't do it because it's bad. It's just a bad thing to do. If you befriend Van Richten, which you should, because he's a great character to befriend, or she. I'm just gonna start saying she. It bothers me. I'm so used to it. Feels like misgendering a character.
Trans Richten.
Rudolph Trans Richten. Van Richten says trans rights. I'm gonna put a picture I have of an edit of Van Richten saying trans rights up on the screen at some point during this video. If you befriend Van Richten, you should have some fun, friendly encounters with the stuff in his tower. He can be a great ally. Like I said earlier, he's also a great Deus Ex Machina if you need one, because you can also buff Van Richten. We have Van Richten as like a level 13 spellcaster.
Yeah, we've also made Van Richten's wagon basically a TARDIS.
Yeah. So, because we can, I don't remember if any of the transport stuff with that is in the book. Is any of it? I don't think so. It's a mystery. We like to run Van Richten as the wagon that he has is a gift in our version. You could have it be stolen, I guess, if you wanted, but why would you? From Vistani. That is basically an access point for him to come and go from Barovia. He comes back because he wants to kill Strahd. Fundamentally, that's his biggest goal. But it's fun to have had him adventure in other places. He might be able to have some kind of convoluted tie into a player character's backstory, who's from outside of Barovia. He might know someone. When you beat Strahd, if you beat Strahd, and you continue the campaign after that, he might be willing to take players somewhere. He might be able to take them to, like, Waterdeep or some central hub. He might be able to occasionally recur and assist them. Have some connections that he can get them in with higher level adventurers, stuff like that. If you run something where he is one of the few people who can come and go frequently, which is a change I genuinely love making, it's fun to have people who can do that. Do it like that. Sometimes we have genuinely run him as a character who can time travel.
Yeah.
Because we can. It's just fun that way. But yeah, Van Richten's great. I don't really have much to say about the tower because I never play it.
Yeah, the tower itself
sometimes we put Esme there because they hang out canonically, although, like, we do it better.
Just a hub kind of area.
It's a great place to set up a base if you make friends with him. It's a good base of operations.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
also
useful to have.
Worth noting that you can just take Van Richten's wagon after she sacrifices herself.
Yeah, you can do that. We didn't. Was it even a thing at the time? The teleporting wagon? Did we take it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't remember that. I forgot entirely. Oh god. I really like, just the note that I made that I have an outline in front of me, as one does when they're talking for a long time. I like the idea that Van Richten would be miserable and sad if they didn't trans their gender, and that's how they are anyway, so it works out. So I'm gonna kind of skip a section. I'm gonna talk about some other NPCs, some other notes for the game. I've actually hit on most of
Wait, hold
these
on, what are we
already.
skipping?
Castle Ravenloft.
Oh, yes.
I'm gonna talk about that last. We talked about Rahadin a little. Make him just as messed up as Strahd. He's loyal to Strahd, extremely, incredibly, terrifyingly so. He can also do his own stuff, though. That's fun. He can make people suffer from psychic screaming if they get too close to him. That's
Yeah.
fun. People underutilize Rahadin, I think. Esmeralda's also a great character, I know I said that. Don't use the Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft version of her.
No.
It's bad.
No, actually, also don't use the book version either,
No,
though.
just make her cool like we do. She's gonna be, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this now, she's gonna be in the actual play. Use her like I use her. It's so much better.
She is a really cool representation of women of color.
Yes.
She's a really cool representation of amputees.
Yes. She's a strong female character if you play her right, and you should do that.
We have...
Strong, disabled, woman of color, you know, it's great representation. Just hit on that.
We have a thing for her that doesn't necessarily vibe, but I like our backstory for her better.
It's great. You'll see some of it come up.
Yeah.
She can be a great friend of the party, just don't get weird about it. We talked about buffing items, buffing the Sun Sword, buffing other stuff. I love, love, love the take of it being the only thing that can actually permanently kill Strahd. I love the idea that he will just sit at 1 HP until you use it on him, or he will keep getting back up. Adjust its damage should be better. Have it look cooler. Yeah. It's canonically, like, has a soul in it.
Yeah.
You can use that if you want, that's fun. Like I've said several times, but I'm gonna hit it one more time, I genuinely recommend putting the items in places that will be interesting for people to go that won't be super out of their way. Because otherwise they'll go so far out of their way for something, and it won't even be useful if it's the Tome of Strahd. And they might lose a little bit of interest, or a lot of interest, because you drag them out into the middle of somewhere they don't plan on going for the Tome of Strahd.
The only thing that can kill Strahd is the Tome of Strahd.
You just have to beat him over the head with it.
Yeah.
The only thing that can kill Strahd is a blow to the head with his own glorified diary. You have to kill him with his own nonsense.
Even he doesn't want to read it.
Yeah. And now, speaking of, unless you have anything else to add.
So, I wanted to talk briefly about adaptations of certain characters.
Okay.
Because we've talked about, making, adding representation, making characters different races.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, skin color racially, is a thing that you can do.
Yes.
There is not a lot of fantasy racial diversity in Barovia. So,
which makes sense, because it's so closed off. The only people who are really that diverse are the adventurers that come in.
So unless you have a good reason for it in your AU, like Adventurer's Children...
Yeah. You don't have to,
I would
but you can make some spice with it. You could do something like making Ezek a tiefling instead of just having the demon arm. You could have maybe someone near the Abbey be an Aasimar or something. You can have like a few high elves and half elves in the place. You can do some stuff. You can do some fun stuff.
I've seen some interesting takes with making characters drow because of the sun situation.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I've not heard of that before.
But the big thing is, like, doing all that is fine. I think most of the characters in the book...
Yeah.
You can change their gender and it doesn't
do much.
Affect a whole lot.
Yeah. You can change Strahd's gender and it doesn't affect a whole lot.
So that was one thing I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
If you change Strahd's gender, that's fine. Yeah. There is fantastic art they'll put on screen now.
At some point.
Of gender-bent Strahd.
Yes.
And she's fantastic. She can be a fantastic villain.
Yeah.
Just as, and in some cases, more intimidating than male Strahd.
Yes.
Be so careful not to play into the predatory lesbian trope.
Yes. That is important. You can still have her be bi.
Yes.
She's just a terrible person. You don't have to make it because she's a lesbian.
Yeah, it's so easy to cross the line into her being sapphically predatory.
Yeah.
In such a problematic, tropey way.
Instead of just having her be an incel.
Yeah. Instead of having her be a horrible person who happens to be a woman who likes women.
Yeah. You can have her be a predatory woman who likes women and is preying on them because she... Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of easy to fall into bad tropes in Curse of Strahd, which is my biggest pet peeve about it.
The one thing that I would caution you against ever doing is making Strahd a woman and Irina straight.
Yeah. Yeah, that's bad. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You can do it the other way. It's funny the other way.
Yeah, it's funny the other way. But it's
really bad if you do it that way.
Yeah.
It becomes very negatively tropey.
I think it's fine to have Strahd be a woman and Irina be a boy.
Yeah.
Is another thing that's fine.
Yes. Then you've just got like the tsundere trope or whatever it is.
Like Tsundere Strahd after male arena is fine.
Anything you want, just not the one we said.
Don't do lesbian female Strahd and straight female arena.
Yeah, it's not great. While we're talking about Strahd, man, this is the big topic. This is the one. This is the last thing that we're going to talk about. Castle Ravenloft and Strahd himself.
Were there any other NPCs you wanted to touch on?
No.
At all? Sergei?
We already talked about Sergei.
Anything else you wanted to... Okay.
We talked about him a bunch.
Okay.
Like 7 different times. Strahd can be done in a lot of ways, but the number one thing you need to remember is he is charismatic, but ultimately he is a terrible, horrible, cold, miserable person, and he wants one thing, and that is arena.
And he will do anything to get it.
And if you get in the way of that, he will not like you. He does not generally need to concern himself with the party at first. They are irrelevant to him. They are, in his mind, and this is basically how it's written, and how anyone who's run it a lot will talk to you about it, they're like gnats to him. Like, you can swat them out of your face and kind of keep them out of your way if you need to, but ultimately they're very, very harmless and useless to you. When they become more of a threat, as your players keep leveling up, as they get stronger and have more stuff that could hurt him, he's gonna get more interested in them. For the worse.
Or as allies.
Yes. He may try to recruit them, one way or another. He may try to engage with them in a positive manner to keep him from having to deal with them.
Or, as we mentioned early on, he may try to seduce them.
Yes.
Not genuinely out of interest.
No, because he only wants arena. But as a trap, as a plot against them, he might do that. He doesn't really need to hurt them or fight them for a while, and maybe not until the final fight. The dinner is a great opportunity to kind of demonstrate the charisma that I talk about. It's also a really great time to show off how terrible he can be. You can have him do anything from just be, like, sweet-talk them and then scare the shit out of them. You can have him, like, bring in a friend that they left behind somewhere and kill them on screen, or, like, turn them or something. You can have him do some really messed up stuff when they're basically at his whims in his castle.
Yeah, and I don't know if we're doing dinner in
we'll see.
In the game, but it's a great scene to have.
It is. It's so dramatic, and it's such a good way to show off his character in a non-combat setting.
And there are I love to have Strahd show up frequently.
Yes.
But there's also points to have him be quiet and not there. Yeah. It's a balance.
It is. And I haven't put him in yet, in the actual play, but I will be soon, don't worry. Don't be scared, it's fine. He's just a little guy.
We've had games where he's shown up not until even the very last fight.
Yeah.
He shows up then.
Yeah.
And we've had games where he shows up 3 times before Vallaki.
Yeah. Fundamentally, the thing to remember about Strahd is, at his core, he is an incel who has been chasing the girl who rejected him 500 years ago for that entire 500-year period, and anyone who gets in his way dies.
Yes.
He's a terrible person, and that is the number one thing to keep in mind. He is charismatic. A lot of people find him extremely attractive. He is charismatic, he is attractive, he is dramatic, he is borderline flamboyant with the way he handles some things. But ultimately, he is a cold, calculated murderer who only wants one thing, and you have to keep that in mind. Anything else he does is always a means to an end.
And we say incel, and it's true, but it almost kind of evokes this image of a pathetic neckbeard.
He's not.
No.
He's not pathetic. He's incredibly powerful, and he uses that power to try to get what he wants.
Yeah, and simultaneously, he is and isn't pathetic.
Yeah. He's pathetic in his motivations, but he is deadly and incredibly threatening in the fact that he really can see them through if he tries.
Yeah, and he is relentless.
He is relentless, and if you get to a point where you are keeping Arena from him, he will fuck you over.
If you are intentionally holding Arena with no at all way to convince you to give her back, he will just rush your party at every opportunity and just try to take her.
Yeah. And that is a hard thing to fend off. To talk a little bit about the castle itself, the castle map is complicated. You can simplify that. No one will notice unless they've played it a lot. There's like 100 million rooms in that castle. You can take them where they need to go pretty quickly, and most people will never notice.
You can do an exploration, it can be fun, but
But especially if you're getting close to that final fight.
Yeah, if you're going on to the final fight,
don't do it.
don't.
Like, if you don't have a really good opportunity before that, don't do it then, because unless they're, like, searching for him through the castle, which they probably won't be for any logical reason, there's just no point. Speaking of castle locations, fun places to put the final fight if you're planning it yourself. The chapel. Like, Strahd's quarters, Strahd's crypt is one of the best ones we've ever done.
Sergei's crypt as well.
Yes. The Hall of Heroes is incredible. That's a really dramatic place to put it.
Rooftop of Castle Ravenloft.
Like the top tower, the high tower, yeah. That's fun. There are a ton of really great dramatic places to set it. You could also, like, set it, like, right by, like, the drawbridge of the castle or something. Like a courtyard or something, that can be fun. The fight in the castle, the final fight, it should be cinematic to an extreme. If it seems too easy, buff his stat block. If it seems too easy, add environmental factors, like him starting, like, if he gets angry enough about it, have the castle shake or start to collapse at the edges. Have him tear this building that he has built and lived in for so long apart in this attempt to finally get Irina. She's so close. He will do anything to get her and stop them. They're too close. He will destroy everything else in his life, including the castle, including anything in the place. You can have... there are several different encounters within the castle that you can have him pull in to make that fight more difficult if you need numbers instead of raw strength. Environmental factors, like I said, like the castle shaking. I think there are some things in the castle. I think there's, like, braziers that teleport you or something. Pulling that into play could be fun. Strahd just stepping back and teleporting until he can regenerate and coming back to fight you when he's done. Unless you search for him. That's a great way to kind of draw the party. If you really want them to see rooms in Castle Ravenloft, that's a great way to do it. Fundamentally, that final fight is the crux of this, at least this part of your campaign if you go on, and if not, it's the final fight of the campaign. It's the final boss.
Now,
you gotta make it dramatic.
It's worth noting that players can and potentially will enter Castle Ravenloft early.
Yes. That might give them an advantage, or it might get them hurt.
And there are 3 specific examples that come to mind for me.
Yes.
And I'm not going to go into great detail about the campaigns.
Yeah.
But I've loved all of these examples of... they shouldn't come out unscathed.
No.
There was one character that did, and it's because they nailed, like, 7 stealth rolls in a row, all over 20 after modifiers.
Yes.
And they got the thing they were there for, left, and just got out as fast as possible.
Yeah. And that was luck, entirely.
Yes, entirely luck.
And it had consequences later.
Yes.
Everything does.
There was another time where a character died and blew up the entryway of Castle Ravenloft.
Yes, that was awesome.
And
it was a self-sacrifice.
Yeah, it didn't kill Strahd.
No. But it bought the entire rest of the party time to escape that they desperately needed.
Yes. And that character died. There.
Yes, and that character died there. And that was a good ending to that arc. That is a great example of, depending on your setting, if a character has completed the majority of their arc, if self-sacrifice makes sense to end their arc on, that's a great way to let that go and have them play something else. It didn't in that game, because of some specifics, but that is a great way to do that.
They were a character, basically, who lied about being in a war.
Yeah.
And then...
lied about it for personal glory, was a bad person, kind of similar to the game we're playing now. And had a redemption arc that ultimately ended in combat and self-sacrifice in the exact same way that they described their fake story in the first place, which was a truly incredible arc, and it made sense for it to end there.
Yes. And the last one I want to talk about is a party sneaking in to get a massive risk, freeing people that were brought there.
Yes.
And Strahd confronted them in the courtyard, and they only escaped because of one of the most clever plans I think I've ever heard of.
It was awesome.
Which is one of the rule of cool moments, because they stake Strahd in that moment.
Which technically doesn't do anything to him. Technically, by the book. But rule of cool, it was necessary. It was such an incredible plan. I gave them something. And that was basically, they staked him. He wasn't expecting it. He turned into mist and had to retreat to his coffin, and it bought them time to escape. That was what it was, right?
And he wasn't expecting it largely because the players just got very, very tricky. They had a trickery domain cleric who could invoke duplicity.
It was so good.
Basically, they kept him talking, use an invoke duplicity decoy
Yeah.
to let the trickery cleric move actually behind him.
Yeah.
And then staked him.
And it was so cool.
Yeah.
It was so rule of cool, but it was genuinely amazing.
But even still, they should, if they're going into Castle Ravenloft, the chances they run into Strahd should increase tenfold.
Yes. And that the consequences for it should increase just as much, if not more.
Yes.
Strahd is ultimately, he is the final boss of this module. He is the most terrifying thing the players will face, and they will face a lot of terrifying things. And that is the number one thing you should remember about this game.
And while you can link plot hooks in to other campaigns going out from here, or homebrew campaigns, nothing should overshadow Strahd in Barovia.
No. You can make a lot of things connect after the fact, but Strahd is the point of the module. And if you let go of that, if you ignore that, it's not gonna be nearly as fun. You have to remember the crux of the module is killing Strahd. Anything else is second to that. And it can come later. And there are some great cinematic opportunities for that final fight. There is some truly incredible stuff I have seen in games where people have played Curse of Strahd, in games where you and I have played Curse of Strahd. There's been some truly incredible stuff. It is one of the best modules for creativity, and if you're looking to up your game as a DM, like I said at the very beginning of this whole two-parter, this is a great way to do it. It gives you so much creativity, it gives you so much room to change things, but there's so much to do that you don't have to change much, while having the opportunity to really up your roleplay skills, your combat running. There's a ton of opportunity to grow in this game for both players and DMs. It is a great way to up your DMing skills, it is a great way to get confrontational parties to have to stick together and work together. And it's an incredibly great time, even if you tone down the horror, and especially if you tone up the horror.
Yeah, and I think while we wind down here, I'd like to talk about winding down your own games.
Yes.
How do we end and transition out once Strahd is dead?
Yes.
What is that like?
So, it depends on what you're transitioning into. If that's the end of the module, and that's the end of your game, that's fine. I've never done that. I can't super speak from experience, but fundamentally, the players have won. One of my favorite things to show after Strahd is defeated is, for the vast majority of people in Barovia, this is the first time they've ever seen the sun.
Including especially Arena.
Yes. Barovia has been shadowed by gray skies and darkness for hundreds of years. Most, if not all, of the people in Barovia have never seen sunlight. And that is a great cinematic moment to kind of wind down your campaign, as everyone who is in the party who has seen the sun, seeing it again, and getting to watch these people's reactions who they've brought with them this whole time, to finally seeing sunlight for the first time in their lives. That is such a great note to end it on, this kind of melancholy, it's over, now what, is kind of a great way to leave it hanging. There's the whole, hero's journey arc is, people return home, but they're fundamentally changed. People will never be the same after this experience, whether or not you continue on to another campaign. The easiest way to integrate it into the next campaign is, obviously, you're free to leave Barovia now. We usually just kind of integrate it as, a small country into the material plane. Somewhere that you can feasibly travel back through. Sometimes we have Van Richten take the party to Waterdeep or something, if Van Richten is alive. Getting back to kind of a central hub is kind of the next step if you're going to a continual module or another part of the campaign in the traditional Faerun setting. You can just have your players go to wherever else in your homebrew setting if that's how you want to do that.
Yeah, there have been some times where I've seen people just have their parties pick a direction and walk.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to stumble into any module. It stumbles really easily into Storm King's Thunder.
It does. There's so much travel in Storm King's Thunder anyway, that it makes sense that you just kind of start walking and you hit something for that eventually, but there's a lot of plot hooks you can just kind of hit by going. Curse of Strahd is very versatile in that once you're out, you're free to go anywhere.
And the final fight with Strahd, it's a happy moment of the sun shining through, but it can also be a moment of melancholy, because you probably will have lost some people along the way.
Deaths, NPC deaths especially, but maybe PC deaths, maybe serious grievous injury that happens in the final fight, or people that die in the final fight, and now you have to honor that sacrifice, and your characters have to mourn that, and mourn each other. And the fact that they didn't even probably know each other before they got to Barovia, and now they've died for each other and killed for each other. And there's this moment of just, it kind of hits you all at once. The adrenaline wears off. You've been running scared for months, maybe. You finish it. Now what? We've been running scared for months. How do you even adapt to going back to not having to live in fear? Characters will be paranoid after that. Characters will have new startling triggers, things that will scare them that didn't before Barovia. People will have new fears develop and new connections that may or may not be relevant in a good or bad way. It will fundamentally impact the character growth for the rest of whatever story you end up telling.
And one of the best but saddest endings I've ever seen, and it wasn't my game, but is just they won, they beat Strahd, but Irina died.
Yeah.
And just kind of somberly wandering off down the path out of Barovia, never to come back.
Yeah, depending on how that fight goes, it can be a joyous moment, and a quiet joyous moment especially is almost better. There can be celebration and then just kind of rest for a while, or there can be grief and acceptance and rest. And you can take it as much to either degree as you want, depending on how your final fight ends and depending on who you met and lost along the way. It is an incredible way to end a module. It is an incredibly versatile place to go from there. There are so many options. You can really end it on a beautiful note, whether for happy or sad. And yeah, it's just an incredible module. There's a reason it's number 1 on our ranked.
A couple things that I will recommend right off the bat is if you are doing a long-form module, just kind of tying this all around, always have the ever-present threat of, if anyone loyal to Strahd survived, them doing anything to bring him back.
Yeah, we did that. That was a great thing to have happen. Rahadin surviving is a great option for that.
Or the brides.
The brides.
Or Ashir.
Yeah, anyone, really, who was deeply connected to Strahd. If you have a setup like Madame Eva being evil, even if not all the Sonny are, that's a great way to do it. Maybe she enjoyed the way things were and doesn't want it to, is vengeful. Maybe she still had that connection to Strahd and didn't really want him to die. There's a ton of options. Some more logical than others, but there are ways to handle that. There are ways to keep that threat present of his return someday. Or even to drop it on the players when they're not expecting it. There are options. You can always hold that over their heads if someone survives.
Yeah, and on the kind of opposite end of that spectrum, if Barovia isn't challenged by Strahd again, have your party check back in a year game time, or 2 years, or 10 years game time.
Especially if anyone in Irina's family survived, if Ismark or a version of Sergei is alive, have they tried to restore Barovia? Have some of your characters tried to restore Barovia? Is someone ruling there now? How is that changed? Is someone still trying to run it, or is it just abandoned until some bandit camp moves in? How does that end?
Yeah, see how it changes.
How does not just Strahd's story end, but how does Barovia's story continue, or not continue? That's something else that you can kind of tie into everything.
So I think that's gonna do it.
So it was only 2 parts. That's better than I was expecting. Awesome. Yeah. It has been great talking to this microphone. That hopefully will reach all of you. I have said it several times, and I will say it again. I am Cass with College of Lore.
I am the Penitent, and if you have any questions about Curse of Strahd, or comments, or stories about your own campaigns, leave them in the comments.
Yes, please tell us stories about your own games. We've told you plenty about ours. It is your turn. Leave stories in the comments. Leave things that you plan to do in your games. Tell us if you want to try something we've suggested. Report back when you do it. We would love to hear how any of our ideas that you take from us go. Engage with us. We want to hear your stories. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, and if you'd like us to read your stories for our Game Tales feature, go ahead and say that in the comments, and if we like your story, we'll read it.
Yeah. We're definitely going to be doing a lot of features on that in the near future, so if you've got a great story, either before this or after this, leave it here. Let us know. If you don't smash the like button, a vampire is going to bite you. I'm mostly kidding. You wouldn't download a vampire.
Be sure to
bite that like button.
Curse the like button for 500 years until it regains its long-lost love. Yeah.
Like this video. Leave any stories that you want to share.
Like this video and I'll stop talking.
Subscribe for the game tales we've talked about for more content like this, for the actual play that we keep talking about, so you can hear more of our stories. Make sure to hit the notification bell so that you know when we keep talking about stuff like this. And have a great adventure.
Yeah, thank you, and real quick, because this has been a long podcast, just remember, I hope all of you are taking care of your mental health.
Yeah. Take care of yourselves. Especially in games like this, but in general, take care of yourself.
It's a rough game with a lot of things, but it can also be reflective of life in a way, and just
it can be...
take care of your mental health.
Yeah. Let this be a conduit for enjoyment and not for fear and suffering, and let it maybe help you grow just a little. Because you'd be surprised how many times in-character actions can reflect out-of-character growth. Take care of yourselves, we love you, enjoy the module.
Thank you for watching this video from College of Lore. Remember to like this video, subscribe to join the party, and have a fantastic adventure.